Okay, hello YouTube. It's been a long time since I've posted any sort of video at all to my channel, and I've debated what I'm planning on doing for a while, but I, if you let me explain, I think I can give an idea why something that seems like such a odd choice makes the most sense to me. I let's, without going into great detail, I'll eventually get to that. I had medical issues that resulted in me being in a coma for 2 months 5 years ago, 9/11, 2014, so almost 5 years ago, and I ended up with some brain damage from that because I had a seizure is what led to me going into the coma, and I ended up with some brain damage from, I guess, the violent shaking, and my brain swole. So after I was coming out of the just regular coma, they were I don't even know what they were giving me some sort of drug that kept me into a chemical coma for another extra 2 weeks to try to let the swelling in my brain go down. And since that time, I've had a lot of mental health, anxiety, depression, PTSD, lots and lots of different issues. And I have tried as thoroughly as I possibly can. Because, see, I was at the University of Kentucky. I was going to school when this happened, and I had to come back and stay at my parents because I was in no way able to take care of myself. At the point when I come home, I was having to do like occupational therapy, speech therapy, and all these other kind of therapies because I couldn't talk right, I couldn't write. It still doesn't look that hot. It was a struggle to read. I mean, I've regained all that except for chicken scratch writing. Still a little, leaves a little to be wanted, I guess. But so my point that I'm making, and the whole reason for this is, I have ended up going to I am on my 4th therapist, 3rd caseworker, 5th nurse practitioner that gives out the different psych drugs, who currently, if I understood correctly what they were telling me about why she's not been there in so long, I believe that the current one I have is in the process of dying. So I could be wrong about that, but that's how I took what they said. And you know, they're not really out spilling tea about her business, but that's what it seemed like they were saying. And my point to all this, of telling you the numbers, is each one has had, well, I'd say each one has had a different reason, but part of them is the same reason. It's just moving on to better opportunities, greener pastures, whatever. And the longest I've seen any of them was for 2 years, and that will have to be its own separate video, because that is a very unique, unethical situation that became. And yeah, that'll be a good one, so you'll want to see it. But when I talk to people, on average, I have them 9 months to 12, and I start talking with them, and I build a rapport, and I start to trust them, and I start letting out more and more stuff, because when you hear me just sit here and frankly speak about it, it's because I can compartmentalize it into being something that happened, and it was bad, and it felt shitty, but I can emotionally detach myself from everything that happened because of that, and the state that it's left me in mentally. So I don't know how many of you see a therapist, or have seen a therapist in the past, or have a loved one that sees a therapist, but it doesn't really go like on Dr. Phil, where you meet somebody for an hour and then they suddenly, oh, it's everything. And even on that, I mean, the show doesn't really go out of its way to, make it out like, oh, this is the only time he's spending around them. Like, they're dealing with producers. But my point is, it takes a while to build up any sort of rapport with a therapist, specifically the therapist. I mean, the nurse practitioners that give out the meds and stuff, that's a little bit easier. The social worker, that's mostly what they do is in situations where I can't, it's hard to explain what they do. They just help me with paperwork and stuff that I might mess up, stuff like that. So it's not really the same. But with therapists in particular, the inconsistency and the just having it just get abandoned by therapist after therapist after therapist has just about mentally drained me. I'm so depressed. I barely leave for anything unless I get forced to. I still have seizures, so I always have to worry about that. And it's not, I don't really hang out with anybody anymore. I never was a real social person, but now I'm completely not. So, if that's making you wonder, well, how does that, what does that have to do with this video? What does that have to do with this upload? This is what I'm going to start just talking about the stuff that I want to talk to my therapist, because I don't have a consistent one, so I have no consistent basis to go on. I'm just going to start making a video every day and putting this stuff on here. And I realize the risk of doing stuff like that. But I figure maybe my idea of a form of therapy might work better than what I'm getting, because I truly think they should make therapists sign contracts that they can't leave for X amount of months from the job, and then any patient would be told well ahead of time. I just lost another therapist last week, and we're at the end of my session. She goes, well, I need to tell you something. I'm moving on to a new job. Of course, she's not going to say where it's at or anything like that, but it was with helping people in trouble. Well, no shit, you're a therapist. But anyway, and I was like, so do I see you at least one more time before I... No, you just show back up to the place, and we'll toss these files that I've made, whatever notes, with no real context to the notes that I've taken, to the next person, and then they'll judge whatever, and your treatment, and the way that, you know, the things we want you to do, the things, you know, the help we try to provide and everything, it's not consistent at all. And I figure that YouTube can produce one thing consistently, and that is feedback, good, bad, or otherwise. I am in no way asking anybody to, you know, give me some real nice words of whatever. I just want to tell my story, and I want somebody that'll listen and consistently be there. And I hope this is the way to go about it. But I guess we'll start from the beginning tomorrow. Thanks.